Today, we're diving into an engineering story that's so advanced it literally shaped a nation for thousands of years. This is all about the masters of water, Sri Lanka's incredible ancient hydraulic civilization. So, let's start with the central problem. Picture this. You're in ancient Sri Lanka's northern dry zone. The monsoon is everything, but it's totally unreliable. Some years you get floods, others, crippling drought. So the big question is, how on earth do you build a lasting great civilization when the one thing you need most, water, is so unpredictable?
Well, the answer they came up with is just staggering. It can be summed up in a single number: 15,000.
Yep, 15,000. That's not a typo. That's how many man-made reservoirs, or tanks as they're called, these ancient engineers built to solve their water problem. We're talking about a system designed to capture every last precious drop of rain. The sheer scale is almost impossible to wrap your head around, and it became the foundation for everything. So, who were the masterminds behind this? This wasn't the work of one person or even one generation. This was a long, continuous line of brilliant and ambitious leaders. Let's talk about these great tank builders. You have to understand, this was a project that spanned centuries. It kicked off way back in the 4th century BCE with King Pandukabaya, and it was carried on, expanded, and perfected for over 1,500 years by legendary kings like Mahasen, Datusena, and the incredible King Parakramabahu I. And here's what's really cool. For these kings, their power and their legacy weren't defined by the battles they won. Nope. According to the ancient records, a king's greatness was measured by how many of these life-giving reservoirs he built for his people. That was the ultimate measure of a great ruler. Okay, so building thousands of tanks is impressive, but controlling them? That's a whole other level. And this, right here, is where the engineering becomes truly mind-blowing. We're talking about technology that put them literally millennia ahead of Europe. The key to their entire system was this incredible piece of tech from the 3rd century BCE called the Biso Katua. Now, think about the physics for a second. If you've got a massive, deep lake and you just poke a hole in the bottom to let water out, the crushing pressure would just destroy the outlet. The Biso Katua was their elegant solution to tame that incredible power. So how did this thing actually work? It was a marvel of simple, powerful design. The high-pressure water from deep in the reservoir would first rush into this tall vertical tower built from huge granite blocks. Inside this chamber, the water's chaotic energy would dissipate. It would just calm right down. Then, the now tamed water could flow gently and safely out into the irrigation canals. Now, here is the part that will blow your mind. The ancient Sinhalese engineers perfected this technology over 2,100 years ago. European engineers didn't develop anything comparable until the mid-18th century. That's a technological gap of more than 2,000 years. Just let that sink in. But look, solving the pressure problem was only half the battle. The next epic challenge was how to move all that water across huge distances with absolute precision. And remember, they had to do it all without any modern tools. Their answer was another engineering marvel, a canal called the Jaya Ganga. And its genius is captured in this almost unbelievable number, an average gradient of just 6 centimeters per kilometer. To put that in perspective for you, this 87-kilometer-long canal has a slope so gentle it is practically flat. It's actually flatter than a modern highway. And they achieve this over hills and valleys with no lasers, no GPS, nothing but sheer intellectual brilliance. It's absolutely extraordinary. So we have these amazing individual pieces of tech, right? The pressure valves, the canals, but they weren't just stand-alone projects. They were all interconnected pieces of something much, much bigger, a truly grand ecological design. They called it the tank cascade system. So instead of just a random collection of reservoirs, it was a totally integrated network. Tanks were built in a series, like steps down a hillside. Water would flow from the highest tank to the one below it, and so on, all the way down to the fields. The whole system was designed to make sure not a single drop of rain ever went to waste. And we know all about this because it was painstakingly recorded in their ancient chronicles, like the Mahavamsa. And these texts tell us something really deep. These water systems weren't just infrastructure. They were seen as the sacred beating heart of their entire civilization. And the result of having total control over their water supply, well, it was completely transformative. It meant they could grow massive food surpluses. Those surpluses fueled the rise of huge capital cities like Anuradhapura. That new wealth could pay for armies and incredible monuments. It created this incredibly resilient society that thrived for more than 1,500 years, where managing water became a sacred duty.
And that brings us to today, because this isn't just a story about the distant past. This is a timeless, living legacy, and its wisdom has never been more relevant than it is right now.
Get this, many of these ancient tanks are still working today. That's how well they were built. And the modern world is finally taking notice. UNESCO has recognized the city they supported, and the UN has designated the tank cascade system as a globally important agricultural heritage system. It's now being studied all over the world as a model for sustainable water management. In the end, it all comes back to a core philosophy, a guiding principle that was perfectly stated by one of the greatest tank builders, King Parakramabahu the Great. It's an ancient mission statement for sustainability that really leaves us with a critical question for our own time. Are we doing enough to make sure every single drop benefits humanity?